Hey everyone, I'm Zach Rice, and welcome to the first episode of the Open Loot podcast, where we give you the VIP inside scoop of everything Open Loot with laughs, answers, discussions, and banter. Today, our special guests are team members of the new closed access title Boss Fighters. Boss Fighters is a multiplayer action game where a VR player controls a boss, fighting a team of PC players in intense and wacky battles. Vadim is the CEO and creative director of Boss Fighters. He has over 10 years of experience in game development, founder of Pixward, a graphics production outsourcing studio, and 3D Forge, a VR development company. Hey, welcome to the show, man. As this is our first episode, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Zach. I'm doing great.
Man,
Excited
it's
to be here.
Oh man, I'm glad you are here. Many people have been asking for this podcast to happen. So the more they can stay up to date on everything that's going on, the better, right? And for the first episode, I don't think we could have a better guest, man. And I have so many great questions, and there's so much I've been reading about it and understanding about boss fighters, and so many questions I have, and I think a lot of people out there have as well. So right off the bat, I would love to ask you, the new title Boss Fighters is partnered with Open Loot, and it's been eliminating entry barriers for creating digital collectibles, making it so accessible. But I wanted to ask you specifically, how does the partnership between Boss Fighters and Open Loot benefit the accessibility of Web3 gaming for players overall?
Well, that's a great question. And the reason why we partner with OpenLoop, one of the main reasons, is the ease and the bridge between Web2 and Web3 gaming, which we really like, and how OpenLoop is doing it. So, like the biggest problem with Web3 in general, in my opinion, is the interface itself. So, a lot of value, a lot of users are being lost in the interface, and creating uh, a platform, a tool basically to bridge this gap between Web 2 and Web 3 through seamless integration, through familiar user stories, user experience is a great thing to do. And that's why we working with OpenLoot. So I really love the platform, what you guys are building. So essentially it makes like really easy onboarding process for Web 2 gamers to get into Web 3 to start trading those digital collectibles.
Right. It definitely makes the whole thing a lot easier. And I think a lot of people's hesitation is the difficulty to get into it. And if you make it so easy and accessible, it's just a seamless experience. I think it's just fun overall, and it makes everything a lot better. I wanted to ask you, could you elaborate on the process of instant NFT distribution without gas fees that OpenLoot kind of provides for boss fighters?
Yeah. This one is actually that we're going to be using in the upcoming event. So I love the functionality of the airdrops. Basically, all we need to know is like your username, the email of the OpenMoot user to perform all this giveaways and airdrops. And it's like super simple. You don't need to worry about anything. Just go register an account and participate in the giveaways or like in the competitions or you name it. And we can just give you the rewards if you win. So it's super simple. Like you go register there, you have the email. We have access to the database. Basically, you link your account, your OpenLoot account to Boss Fighters account, and then you're good to go. You can use your OpenLoot assets in Boss Fighters game, like the Boss Fighters compatible assets.
Wow, that is so cool, man! I gotta get in with those giveaways. You gotta give me some inside stuff here, man. But I want to ask, could you explain the role, kind of from your perspective, that OpenLoot undertakes in realizing your vision behind boss fighters and making it like a reality?
Well, it's like I said. So I'm a big believer in digital asset ownership. So like I come from the time and space where video game ownership was really a thing. Like like 10 years ago, there wasn't a thing like a subscription model. You have to buy stuff. We have to
Yeah.
use like those CDs, or even earlier when I played my NAS consoles, like there was those cartridges and we can trade those things. We could trade those things with my friends, basically. Like and it was really awesome, like to own a piece of a game or a game itself and trade it. And the same concept is basically right now it works in Web3, but with OpenLoot is much easier to access. So you actually own the items in the game. And this is what we're challenging, like in the conventional gaming industry, because like the value is not in the player's hands. And
Mhm.
Web3 digital asset ownership essentially allows us to give value to players, like because most important thing is the players itself. So like we always say, game first approach. This is what we're trying to do. So once you have the game, you have to give players not only cool gameplay experience, but we also giving them the value in a form of digital asset ownership in the game.
Yeah, that's what really captivated me about Web3 in the beginning when I first got into it, is when I found out in traditional Web2, it's kind of like you have an indefinite lease. And with Web3, you actually really get to own that item and it has intrinsic value, which just fascinated me. Shifting gears completely on the topic of gameplay, on the gameplay side, what inspired you to create Boss Fighters as an asymmetric multiplayer game? Like, what inspired you to create that VR boss and have those PC players? That's such a cool concept.
Yeah, definitely. It's really a cool concept, and I like this question a lot. So you might imagine I've been asked a lot of a lot of this question. So uh, we like here at Pittsburgh Games, we very much love VR, but like VR is a completely new medium. It immerses you can immerse yourself in VR, and it feels completely different from playing like the game on a flat screen. But one of the biggest flaws, not the flaws, but limitations in VR is limited like accessibility,
Mhm.
somewhat limited accessibility in terms of you have to have this additional device. So uh, the idea of making the game asymmetric allows us to expand our player base. So like, what if we can create a game that can be played not only in VR but also on a flat screen, and we can increase the demand between those flat screen players to try the game in VR side, because like yeah, you play in this game in an asymmetrical mode, you play in this game on a flat screen, you see this giant boss that is completely controlled by a VR player. Basically, you embody this boss in VR. And it's super cool to fight against a real player, not against the scripted boss. And you want to try this thing. So one thing why we're doing this, we want to show this game not only to VR players but to flat screen players. This is why like this is a symmetrical game, and we want to bring something fresh and new to the genre of shooters, online shooters like Fortnite, PUBG. Like when was the latest biggest innovation in this genre? It was 7 or 8 years ago when Battle Royale was invented, and nothing new basically came out there. So
Very true.
we trying to spice things up, and like, given the feedback that we get from the community, I think we're on the right track. So that's the inspiration behind it. So obviously I played a lot of VR games, I played a lot of flat screen games, and the inspiration comes from uh, lots of these titles. Like I love physics-based games, I like action-based games in VR, and those are the most popular titles out there. And I like shooters, so we're trying to mix them both in this intense and wacky battle scenarios, and I think it's working. It's working quite nicely.
You're right. I feel people are very hungry for innovation, and you are very much satisfying that desire. I've looked in so much. I've done a great deep dive on your community and how well everything's doing so far and progressing. So I congratulate you on that, man. Also, I want to shift back. So, how for you does the blockchain and cryptocurrency aspects? How do you think enhance the gameplay experience for players as they play in boss fighters?
Oh yeah, great question, Zach. So first of all, Boss Fighters is a free-to-play title. It's available for everyone, and all the Web3 aspects of the game, like the cryptocurrency tokens or the uh, non-fungible tokens, essentially optional in the game. But and they're optional because we don't want to scare players away from these features. We want to introduce them gradually. So first of all, like having the game free to play allows us to get more players to try the game. And when you start playing the game, we're going to introduce you to this concept gradually through gameplay. So uh, I'm just going to give you a few examples how it's going to work in the game and how we envision it. So by playing the game, you normally like acquire some sort of the currency in the game, like in the form of like crystals or coins, like you name it, right? So and um, uh, in traditional gaming, all the like cosmetic items or the rewards that you're getting, they're like basically unlimited in numbers, and this basically they inflate the supply, and they become worthless eventually. So we don't want this to happen. And um, Web3 and NFTs essentially allows us to transform some of the items and the player, and this is totally at player's discretion. So like, you can opt for this, or you can basically choose not to do it.
That's cool.
But you can use those cryptocurrency tokens, and you can convert items into NFTs, and like basically storing them indefinitely, and storing them like some kind of value in these items, and then you can trade them, you can still play with them. So they keep all the functionality, but they gain additional traits while you convert them into NFTs. So it's not like in a sense of like they get stronger. We don't want like to make this pay to win, absolutely, but in a sense that you can store these items and you can trade them, and so you basically like progressing through the game, and we unlocking these options for you and introducing you, player to this web3 concepts. So that's how it works in a nutshell.
Wow, that is awesome. You spoke about items. Could you provide a little bit more details about the kind of unique characters and weapons available in game? Because of the mega nerd in me needs to know.
All right, all right. So so quite an interesting topic and very extensive. So I would like to touch very lightly on those things, not to
Sure.
spoil everything, because we are preparing some big updates for the for some like, upcoming months. So we have the boss and we have the fighters, and all of them have their own weapons and items. So uh, the better way to think about this is to you have a set of weapons that you unlock by basically progressing through the game, and those weapons, they determine your play style. So as a fighter, they determine your play style. So either you like a long range sharpshooter, you like hit from behind, you trying to hide somewhere like far away from the boss, or like you're a nuker who has like some big gun, and it's like very short range but high damage, or maybe you're somewhere in between. So on top of that, we're gonna have some movement abilities or escape abilities, because the boss is deadly, and obviously you wanna avoid boss attacks. But
Yeah.
also we're gonna have some supply items that help you to interact with your teammates, and like help your teammates basically and strategize around this. The boss itself has different weapons and gadgets that you can equip. So essentially, the boss can have like long range weapons. The boss can have short range melee weapons or zone control weapons, and object manipulation stuff. So yeah, it'd be really cool to show this later. And on top of all of that, there will be a separately a cosmetic part for all of this. So we want to emphasize the cosmetic play in the game, like Fortnite does, or like all those other free-to-play shooters. It's a really cool thing, and it naturally synergizes with the Web3 aspect and the digital collectibles. So if you play the game and then you win some kind of a cool looking item, you can make sure that it stays like only like there will be only a few of these items available through the season. You can convert them into the NFTs, and you can trade them maybe, or you can still play with this stuff. So each weapon, each item, and the character skin will have some cosmetic options, and we're gonna expand them a lot in the future updates.
Wow, I feel like with the VR aspect and the Web3 aspect, you really are kind of turning everything up to 11. So that is very cool, man. Man, I have so much stuff I'm looking forward to. Okay, our last question before we wrap this up, because I know you're such a busy man. How will the transition between closed alpha to closed beta really impact the game's quality and with those matchmaking improvements that I know you guys have on the way?
Yeah, so basically we are working towards like a closed beta, where we're gonna introduce the dedicated server support. So we're gonna launch those regional servers that will allow us not only to extend the play times, but also improve the matchmaking. So we're gonna track like those internal game data to make the matchmaking more precise and match players more efficiently. So that's one thing. We're also gonna introduce new map, new weapons, new items, because we actually kind of working on the revamp of the battle itself, how the battle unfolds, because we want to like add things, add spice to the
Mhm.
battle, like in the form of like maybe doing some phases in the boss fight, which
Right.
you normally see in the boss fights and other games. So we want to explore this in a closed beta, and some other enhancements. Just like we transition into new engine version, so hopefully this will enhance stability of the game. Some new graphical improvements, new UI elements. So yeah, basically there are a lot of changes coming to the game.
Wow, there is so much stuff for the players and community to look forward to. But man, I just want to say thank you for taking the time here today. I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on the very first episode of the Open Loot podcast. And dude, any closing notes, anything you'd like to finish it off with saying?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me to this podcast. So our Alpha Pass sale is coming to Open Loot very soon. We're gonna have tournaments, special tournaments for those who own the Alpha Passes. So we're gonna have massive updates for the game right when the Alpha Pass sale launches. So stay tuned. Subscribe to our social media. Follow us on Twitter. Join our Discord. We have an amazing community. Playtimes are every Friday, and we're going to expand playtimes once the Alpha Pass sale goes live. Stay tuned.
Awesome. I couldn't have said it better, man. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Zach.